Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is League Unlocked. My name's Eric. Here with Mark as... we're still a little bit away from actual free agency kicking off, but the rumors, they're getting extra spicy, Mark. They're getting, you need a glass of milk to go down with some of these rumors.
Hey, ESPN eSports might be going away, but Jacob Wolf and the crew are going down swinging, my man. They're coming out with these bombs left, right, and center saying, hey, we're not going anywhere in this scene. Look at the drops that were coming through, and hey, they were spicy, absolute spicy ones.
They continue to be spicy. We got to start with all this Perkz news, and we talked about there was been like 4 different NA teams that have been linked around his name. Now Jacob Wolf, also he talked about Fnatic and how G2, Fnatic inquired. They wanted Perkz, and Ocelot and the boys were like, no, you can't have. We won't even talk to you because we can't let you go to one of our rivals. The reverse
and
caps.
You know what? Yeah, and I love that. I love that situation because, of course, you have Fnatic doing the bare minimum, right? Trying to make this happen, trying to make this an opportunity to even have this discussion for a player like Perkz and making a transaction of this nature. That's all you can ask from Fnatic. And, of course, if you're G2, you have the right to say absolutely no. And this is one of the important things. We talked about this with Doublelift most recently, and especially then Flickr with Cloud9, and talking about, you know, when you promote players, when you're getting players, talking about the other teams having an opportunity at your star player. Well, this is a little bit different, obviously, given the contract situation and buying out, but still it remains the sense of where G2 is saying, look, you know what? We identify that if Perkz goes to a Fnatic, that can cause us some troubles in our own backyard. That's not in our best interest, even if we're adding in the $5 million in our pocket as a buyout.
Yeah, so that's where the news gets even crazier because, okay, he's not going to Fnatic, wants to go to NA, and again, Jacob Wolf, reliable source, saying that Cloud9 is the preferred destination for Perkz himself. Where he wants to go, he gets to be reunited with his boy Sven. Cloud9, obviously a top-tier organization in North America. The question is, how deep are your wallets, Jack? Because, yeah, a buyout of $5 million, just shy, Jacob Wolf says. So not quite $5 million. Okay, well, that's totally different then. But $5 million, and then you're going to have to pay a salary on top of that. This is not a done deal by any means. Again, Mr. Wolf saying the holdup is $5 million. And Cloud9 Jack sitting there going, ooh, how can I sell this to investors?
Man, you're talking about a Cloud9 team that has had to make some serious investments recently as far as talking about getting Vulcan onto the team. Hey, that was a lot of cash to get that buyout.
2.5, yeah.
That adds up. And yes, you know, the way we worked it out for Cloud9 in the past was, hey, you traded away Sven and Kumo went away. These type of contracts coming off the books, being bought out. This one being bought out by Cloud9. It generally worked out in the favor. Still, those are expensive moves to make for an individual player, but it shows, again, hey, if you're going to make a $2 million buyout on Vulcan, of course you're going to be weighing an opportunity to make a $5 million buyout on a talent like Perkz, even considering the success that you had with Niski in the mid lane with Blabber.
And so you talked about before they got rid of Sven Skaren, they've gotten rid of Licorice. Fudge is going to be a lot cheaper than keeping a Licorice on this roster. Vulcan was very expensive to get over. Blabber, for how great he's been, you got to imagine he's still on a cheap contract for the level that he's playing at, just because, I mean, he hasn't been around the scene as long. He hasn't really cashed out for his big deal. I'm sure Sven is making quite a bit of money, but it could be a more expensive roster than it is for Cloud9. And I mean, if no one's willing to pay this $5 million buyout for Perkz, it's going to be an awkward season next year for G2.
Yeah, well, it's a really strange environment as far as we're seeing with free agency, is that we're seeing still, you know, a certain high level of spending, obviously, and given, you know, that teams are willing to do this, but it's a little bit surprising given just the global situation, right? What's been happening in the past couple of months as far as finances for a lot of these teams, as well as the future, right? How much can you depend on this next year as far as finances and revenue and gains of any type of nature? Adding in any type of contract, any type of buyouts is a big risk in that nature. A $5 million risk, That is a lot. And even for a Cloud9, and even with their investors behind it, even with the strength that Jack has and willingness to stay in the scene, 5 million is a big bullet to bite, no matter how you're looking at it, folks.
I think the big thing that they're probably looking at, even beyond the 5 million thing, is if we're paying 5 million to have Perkz come over, you're not going to be here for a split. You're not going to be here for a year. We need you to commit to maybe 2 years, but I would be pushing for 3, which I'm sure they are. And that's quite a commitment. Can you stick in North America for that long if you're Perkz?
Hey, look, you got to make him make this type of commitment as far as, yes, to your organization, to North America. That's a big one. If you're being able to put up not only the $5 million buyout, rumored to be a record-breaking contract as well for Perkz that he's going to be signing to be getting paid for, you better believe that that's following up on that buyout. It's going to be interesting because of that nature of just how big that financial payment has to be. I mean, you're even talking about the longevity of it needs to be a long-term deal for Cloud9. Well, sure. But at the same time, making a long-term commitment to pay that much money to one player, what else are you doing for the rest of your roster, right? You need to be able to not only put in other star pieces, but you need to be able to find valuable pieces, things like a Blabber that comes through and develops talent at a high level and also is on a lower tier contract compared to the rest of the league. That's going to be extremely vital if you're making this type of transaction with Perkz. And I think out of all the organizations in North America to feel confident that they could find a way to find those diamonds in the rough, find a way to work through this contract and the different salary levels, I think Cloud9 would absolutely have to be at the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, you could absolutely see Perkz, and again, I'm sure Sven, a big contract, not to level whatever Perkz will get, making up 60-70% of their roster salary and just shuffling through young up-and-coming talent, grooming them, then they get paid somewhere else. That sounds like the Cloud9 special, and hey, it's worked for them for a few years now that we've seen. But Perkz, always the meme lord. We saw weeks ago he's tweeting about, wow, how much for
his Twitter is insane right now.
But the guy's streaming and has been pretty upfront about it, regularly streaming, the preseason, all the crazy item changes. He's just playing, and obviously, he can't say most of the information because nothing's going through until the 16th, 17th. But he's been talking about it and even sprinkled some nuggets of his relationship with Ocelot, even in stories. And maybe Ocelot's just trying to cash in on Perkz, which, that's purely speculation. But come on, they built this brand together, going back to even 2015 when they were the old gamers too.
It's such a weird situation where you feel like, oh my God, I could never see Perkz leave G2. At the exact same time, when you talk about this roster and all the players, even with Caps being the one to switch from Fnatic to G2, you'd be looking at the G2 roster currently and going, yeah, well, I could see Perkz wanting to try something different or wanting to go somewhere else. And of course, the ADC role has a major part to play in that. And I'm pretty sure that's the main focus, obviously. It really is incredible to think that we're at where we're at with Perkz and G2. And as you said, if anyone else is not paying attention as far as this situation, waiting for it to be resolved, hey, look, we'll give you your updates as far as you want, but I think you're missing out by not watching his streams, getting it straight from the source.
And for Perkz, I mean, it was the perfect plan. I'll role swap. We get Caps to come over. We dominate EU. Mission accomplished. The problem is, you almost did too good a job. You were too good at AD carry, better than Caps. And Caps is the one guy, the one player in Europe where you could confidently, maybe not confidently, but say, yeah, I'd rather him over Perkz. Because he's the only guy in the league, but he's on your team.
He's absolutely the only one in the LEC that you could ever have that type of conversation for. And then the problem, as you said, the problem for Perkz is looking at then, well, okay, you did so well individually as a bot laner, and then you had Caps do the whole switch thing. Well, the X factor that you gain from having Caps play mid lane compared to him playing ADC is so much more valuable compared to whatever type of X factor that we talked about with Perkz. Because yes, you better believe that, you can have this conversation about Caps and Perkz, of course, but they bring incredibly different styles to how they want to dominate in the mid lane. Caps, as we know, individual outplays turning into spreading that pressure on the map, roaming around, making a nightmare. Perkz, it's lane dominance. I'm going to bully you, and I'm going to come back to lane with that strength and bully you even more, is what we saw from him. Obviously, a difference.
And guys, no flame here, but Perkz, 8 LEC titles. He is 22 years old. He is a year younger than Golden Glue. Just.
Hey, man, that's nothing on Golden Glue. You can put almost any name
Sure.
in that
He's
one.
22.
Of any
Perkz is only 22 years old. It's insane.
Incredible accomplishments in such a short amount of time.
And I know we're from North America, so we're a bit biased. I'd love to see Perkz come over to NA. I'd love to see him and Sven completely smurf on the entire region as a whole, because I'm pretty sure that's what they would do if they were reunited in the LCS. We got other EU players that, well, he's been around a long time in North America now, but we've been speculating who's going to replace Bjergsen, and it sounds like they found their man, and the answer to replace Bjergsenite is with his own kryptonite. That's what the answer is. You bring in PoE.
Hey, I'm okay with this. This is one that I was certainly not expecting to see on our radar. I think a lot of people were expecting, look, okay, maybe, hey, we're holding out that 1% chance. They're taking that big sledgehammer swing into free agency. They're going for Chovy. They're going for Perkz. And, well, we've seen the TSM name attached to Perkz, but obviously not to the same degree.
I don't think TSM spending $5 million.
Nah, that's not. I'm not predicting that one. Didn't predict this though either. To see that them dip their toes into the market into this type of range and the PowerofEvil of all the players, I like it. I think that this is a very smart decision from the TSM management staff, because we've had all these discussions about who's going to replace Bjergsen, who's going to be the next one up, what are they going to do? We talked about having young players step in. Cat Evolve, we're talking about Sword stepping in. These type of situations of bringing someone in so young, so raw. But the idea here with PowerofEvil, obviously you can talk about PowerofEvil and what he can do with Bjergsen and what he can bring on his own, even in that nature. But if you still are on board of wanting that young talent, this doesn't derail it by any means. You can still try your very best for the next year, 2, even 3 years at this point, with someone like PowerofEvil as your mid laner, and still talk about development in the academy side and what you're working through. And of course, that does, and being positive about that does involve increased performance, increased efforts into the academy scene and what you can get out of it in North America. But still, at a glance, right out of the top, and what you can do elsewhere in the organization, not only what PowerofEvil just immediately steps in and brings himself to the organization. I think this was a very smart move from TSM.
Yeah, and this is, again, Jacob Wolf saying in a tweet that basically can't have any contracts yet, but he's verbally agreed to join TSM as their starting mid laner for the spring split. And this is his 4th team just in the LCS since he came across the pond. And let's be honest, Optic, CLG, and now FlyQuest, he hasn't really disappointed individually on any of those teams, even if Optic and CLG in particular underperformed a little. Well, Optic didn't underperform, but individually, he's been among the best mid laners in North America for his entire tenure.
Ever since he came over across the pond, we've been talking about him in the exact same conversations when we talk about our very best mid laners. Sometimes, I think, and I feel like this is really unfair to PowerofEvil. Actually, it's been over the past couple of years. Things has really been based off of the teams and the overall strength sometimes the teams have brought to the table. When we talk about the best mid laners, it's been Bjergsen and Jensen. You can have your various discussions and things of that nature, but then always PowerofEvil. He's been right there. He's always been at that level of elite play. It's just been wasted sometimes with Optic, wasted sometimes, with the FlyQuest when they're not doing the right things. CLG, these type of things. But you're talking about PowerofEvil's individual performance, what he was able to do in good games and bad games. Hey, 2 thumbs up from me, my man, on what he was able to do. And even if you're putting him behind a Bjergsen and a Jensen in NA over the last couple of years, now you take those 3, let's take them over to some international events. And I think that, I want PowerofEvil, my man. I think that that's a bit of some better history there.
Or let's combine Bjergsen and PowerofEvil into one mid laner. That's what they're doing here with Bjergsen coaching with him. I'll tell you what this does do and hurt is the narrative of FlyQuest. They talked about it throughout the playoff run where they're like, well, everyone, even when we're the higher seed, we're the ones already in the finals. Everybody sleeps on us. It really doesn't help when your star mid laner goes over to TSM, who's obviously the bigger brand. It hurts that narrative.
I think this is, if anything, also from this, outside the TSM side of this news, I think this is the dagger in what we saw from, 2020 FlyQuest as far as what they were able to do. Because I think this is a clear sign that not only hey, we're taking our swing at the top lane, but if you're not able to secure something in the top lane, I think that's why you're seeing someone like a PowerofEvil be willing to make a move on top of other reasons. But even then, PowerofEvil moving off, Santorin most likely moving off. Now you're talking about what you got to build around with this team. You still have Ignar there, yes, of course, and your solo has provided a level of play in the LCS too. But I think as far as anybody else and what you want to do is build off of this last year. Well, I think it's going to be a bit of at least a 1 year rebuilding period, or at least a split, unless I'm stupid and going to be surprised by FlyQuest resurgence.
Hey, people didn't predict them to do as well or to go to Worlds last year, so probably done underestimating what they can do as an organization. And remember, TSM, there's still plenty of question marks with that roster. We assume Spica's definitely going to be the starting jungler. Now it sounds like PoE. Outside of that, even Doublelift, I don't know what this roster is looking like the other three. We've seen some rumors that Broken Blade might go to the LEC, which kind of brought up the Licorice TSM rumor. But PowerofEvil and Bjergsen together working in tandem is a fun thought if you're a TSM fan.
Yeah, I think that's extremely exciting to think about those two minds coming together, feeling out different champions, different ways to play, and especially for this year, right? The way that it's going to be with the different item changes, the reworks coming through. It is going to be of the utmost importance. And I think having, again, a mind like Bjergsen alongside PowerofEvil can be a great thing. And as we talked earlier with Perkz, the amount of money that people are going to be getting, buyouts, the actual contract prices, getting someone like PowerofEvil, I'm sure it's not cheap by any stretch, but it's not in the same
stratosphere. Not 5 million.
Of course, as that 5 million Perkz type of situation. And as we talked about with Perkz, that allows you a little bit more a financial flexibility with the roster. Interesting to see if TSM uses that to go out, get someone like Licorice in that top side. Because as we know, PowerofEvil coming through, going to be a different situation with the imports for TSM is most likely the situation as well.
Yeah, and that's where people will quickly realize how nice it was having Bjergsen not taking up an import slot in terms of stacking up that roster. But that's, again, it was going to be impossible to replace Bjergsen on TSM, face of the entire organization. But PowerofEvil is a decent start, and someone at least individually on the Rift you shouldn't be at all concerned about in North America or even internationally, as we saw at 2020 Worlds. Some of the other bigger names still hanging around in free agency, and it's the first guy we were talking about in the offseason is Licorice, and we have some updates from Jacob Wolf saying Golden Guardians were the top bidder initially, 1.75 million, not Perkz money, but still a hefty buyout, and they offered that, but then they backed out. They said, never mind, we can't swing that. And then second, FlyQuest, the team we were just talking about, comes in, says 1.5 million buyout, we're in. Actually, maybe not. Now it sounds like they've both backed out, which means Licorice is still chilling on the open market.
And I'm not buying it that teams have gone, wait a minute, they're going to use this money to get Perkz. We can't get, that's no. That's stop it. That's not what's going on here. There's obviously other situations.
FlyQuest Perkz, we're not seeing that happen?
No, we are not. We're not seeing that. Hey, he might love the environment, but not quite that much, my man. It's so tough with Licorice in the situation of what we're seeing, because obviously I think there's other factors, right? Obviously into why these deals haven't completely gone through just on that. But you better believe that as much as we talk about, these teams, yeah, they're not, the idea behind trying to nix these deals is not to not get Cloud9 this money. But still, you better believe that Cloud9 needs this money. They want this money from selling off the contract of Licorice to make that next step. And obviously, hey, 1.5, 1.7 mil, that goes a long way to getting you to that 5 million for the buyout.
Perkz' salary for the first year.
And that's that first class plane ticket, my man.
It could be something that they are waiting for that Licorice domino to drop so that they have the finances to rejig around to sign someone like Perkz. But if FlyQuest and Golden Guardians are out, and I don't think they're out, they could absolutely still be in the race or the sweepstakes for Licorice, and both of those teams would definitely welcome Licorice on the squad. But TSM, also a squad that we mentioned, if they are trying to free up an import slot, Licorice is probably the best available way for them to do it.
Parth has been interested in Licorice all the way back to the scouting grounds days. You look at TSM, they had interest in him as a player, couldn't get him. Now's the chance. Now's your chance to go out there, snag him up. Of course, a little bit different, the price you have to pay to get someone at the scouting grounds compared to 1.7
Couple
million.
zeros, yeah, a few zeros difference.
And again, talking about the buyouts, a 1.7 in North America, man, that's almost equivalent to having to do the Perkz buyout when you're talking about, man, having to pay 1.7 for North American talent. That's almost out of the minds for a lot of people.
Might as well import if you got to spend that much anyways. Some of the other guys, we also had Vander, who had a buyout. Not really sure the price on Rogue, but it sounds like he'll be signing with Misfits for 2021. Didn't think it would take long for him to find another team. He had a great 2020. Surprised Rogue are moving on from him, but happy he'll get another spot in the LEC. And Cody's son, looking like he's leaving 100 Thieves, going to be hitting the open market, which makes room for this 100 Thieves Johnson rumor. I think that's something we talked about a long time ago, is we wanted to see Johnson with Someday. But really, more importantly, can we get Someday a team? Come on.
Yeah, again, that's the overall message that needs to come through. Come on, Papa. I know you came over from the LCK to help your boy Someday get some good strength on this roster. Let's push it to that next level. With Cody's son moving off, I think that things never really reached where they should have been with 100 Thieves. We've seen Cody reach pretty high levels in the LCS before, and I still think that he can get to those type of levels, but it's going to require the right support alongside him, and again, the right amount of play coming through on his side as well. Didn't see that with 100 Thieves.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's hard to say where Cody's son would land now as a free agent. If Johnson leaves Dignitas, which it seems like he's going to. You've also seen Sneaky rumored to come back and join Dignitas. So if Johnson's gone there and that spot is taken, I mean, where else are you looking? Team Liquid? No. TSM? Is he an upgrade over Doublelift, even if they end up getting rid of him? FlyQuest probably keeping Turtle. FBI on Golden Guardians. There's not that many available AD carry spots in the LCS unless you want to go suffer on CLG or Immortals.
And look, as vocal as we've been about the disappointment of this past Worlds for the TSM bot lane, I still don't think that they would even make that type of move, or even a side grade, if you want to call it, for Cody's son from Doublelift. So I think that team you gotta look elsewhere. And you're right, it's a shrinking market as far as where you want to be for someone like Cody's son, and where you think that could be an environment to help you thrive, help you succeed. Fortunately, those spots are taken by other ADCs right now, and for other various reasons, whether just flat out talent difference, better chemistry with the support, you're not going to find a way to edge them out.
Yeah, basically the top 4 teams in the LCS have pretty solid AD carries that I don't think Cody's son could be starting over. Support will probably change for TSM, but Doublelift, it's a hard name to get rid of because he has such a big fan base.
Hey, you already made that move with Doublelift. You got to live in your bed right now, it seems the way, for TSM.
Yeah, and he's probably got something he wants to prove with them. But either way, there's still a lot to figure out with that TSM roster. A lot to figure out with a lot of the LCS rosters and LEC. But Perkz, Cloud9 is obviously the big one that everyone's going to be paying attention to. And if you want to start getting some Easter eggs and some theorizing, watch Perkz' stream, because he's talking about it as openly as he can before free agency opens. And we know a personality like him in North America would absolutely crush it. But that's all the time today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys as always. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you guys and gals on the Flippity Flop.